Hello, listeners. Welcome to Divine Invocations Tarot. And the deck that I'm using right now is the Bhagavad Gita Tarot deck, calling all the divine forces help us receive the messages for today. If you like my work, you may like, share, and subscribe. Okay, I have got 3 cards now. I was wanting to take 3, but since this card was along with that, I'll take that as well. Okay, fair enough. So, first, let's read out the name of each card. This is the Lamp of Knowledge. The next card is the Pearls on a Thread. The next card is Intelligence. The fourth one is Infamy. And the last one at the bottom of the deck is Protection. All right, very nice spread. Let's first invoke the presence of Divine through the verse from Bhagavad Gita itself. This is from chapter 10, verse 10 and 11. Tesam satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam upayanti te. To those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the intelligence by which they can attain me. Out of compassion for them, dwelling in their hearts, I destroy the darkness of ignorance with the lamp of knowledge. So, trust is a very important thing when we talk about ourselves in life. So, what I mean to say is, trust is essential for any relationship to begin, any job, anything that we do in our lives requires that stamp of trust. And if that is not felt or known to us, what happens is we are bound to not to believe, go ahead with whatever the mind says, which is different from what is to be believed. So, trust is also a natural feeling, just like love. So, understand that when you have that knowledge within you, what you might want to do is trust your instinct at times when you're supposed to spread it, go ahead and do that. So you will feel the light within yourself when you try to go ahead and spread out that love. So this card means that the Lord is definitely providing you the required blessings that you need from whatever karmas that you do. So essentially, he dwells in your heart, and you may not see him, you might feel him indirectly or through your actions, which you're trying to sow the positive seeds of creation within yourself, or do anything which is related to art or culture. So understand that he's the one who is the supreme knowledge which exists within you, within your heart. So your heart is in sync with your mind, which will create that positive force, and you will become like a magnet of knowledge. So that's the meaning of the card. The knowledge is something which is given by the God Himself. And it is the mind which thinks that it has created that knowledge, but actually it is something given to us by God. The accumulation of thoughts resulting in memory resulting in increase in retention abilities. These are all energies we are creating to create more knowledge and better understanding of everything in and around us. And in the process of doing it, we fail to interpret that everything that is within us is given by God. So understand that you need to be humble with the energies that you possess. Next card is Pearls on a Thread, a very beautiful image of Lord Krishna. Let's go ahead and invoke the presence of divine from this verse from Gita, that is chapter 7, verse 6 and 7. that says etad yonini bhutani sarvaniti upadharya aham kirtanasya a jagata prabhava pralas tatha. So this means that knowing for certain that whatever is found in this creation arises out of a combination of material and spiritual energies of me. I am the origin and the dissolution of all. There is nothing beyond me. Arjuna says, everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. So, a very beautiful discussion going on between Lord Krishna and Arjuna from the epic Mahabharata. So, Lord says, whatever you see around you, it's a combination of material and spiritual forces which are working to help you evolve as a person. So, in the process of doing it, Arjuna is acknowledging the fact that's true, and I have understood the meaning of what you say, just like the pearls which are beautifully strung on a thread. So, meaning is we need to acknowledge what we have received so far from God. So, having the knowledge, knowing what is to be known, and then spreading the word across and being very thankful to the God. Next thing is understanding that everything spiritual or material is belonging to God Himself. All right. So there could be a possibility that there are times when negativities goes on in our minds to such a level that even if somebody tries to probably ask you for something material or probably borrow it for a time, you might feel upset by that. So understand that your energies are relatable to your spiritual growth. Your materialistic accumulation is something that has gone all along in these years through your experience and knowledge that you have gained. But the most important thing is to be grateful to what you receive in terms of material wealth, because that also belongs to God. And when you have accumulated material wealth, there are two roads that are there, which is a divide. Either you become spiritual or you become non spiritual. So it is for you to decide what life you've been leading after accumulating materialistic wealth. Have you become more spiritually inclined to God, that you do some charity work, or teach children for free, or help something some way or the other? You are doing that work to gain that courage to make a mark, not to the world but to your inner world. All right. So it's not just the accumulation of wealth which is important. How you're working with the wealth to grow spiritually is all the more equally important. All right, the next message that we have is intelligence. This is Goddess Saraswati. Let's invoke her presence by reading out the verse from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verse 42. Indriyani parani ahur indriyebhya param mana manasastu para buddhir yo buddhe paratastusa. The senses are superior to matter. Mind is higher than the senses, and higher than the mind is intelligence, but soul is higher still. As you can see, you have that knowledge, you have gained that knowledge, and you have understood slowly, gradually, that it is something that belongs to you. You have started sharing that knowledge. Probably you're a teacher, a manager, a person, a leader who is leading from the front, taking care of people, trying to help them motivate and stay motivated and increase their production. In the process of doing it, you have accumulated material wealth, and you are wanting to grow. In fact, you've seen yourself grow all these years, and you've realized that this is all material wealth. What is more important is spiritual wealth that should have been accumulated. So, again, it's never too late to rebuild your life. You can rebuild your life this moment, because every action, every movement of thought, is contributing towards your spiritual evolution, if that's what makes you feel happy, because at least you have to believe that you are responsible for changes in your life, be it materialistic or spiritual. And when you realize spiritual growth is important, you will realize that the knowledge that you have already accumulated belongs to you, but it needs to be connected with God. There are ways to interpret this message. You might want to say intelligence is yours, but you submit it to something divine within you. Even heart, if you understand your heart and your feelings, understand it just to be an organ. You are devoting your knowledge, your spiritual growth, everything to an organ in your body. That's your heart. Interpret it that way. So understand that you have accumulated so much knowledge. You have thought about the idea of growing in life. You have persevered that much to the point that you have accumulated all these materialistic wealth. But the most important thing that was off track was spiritual growth, which was arrested. But what you might want to do is use your strength to your advantage in such a way that you, without manipulating your thoughts, your approach towards life, you are able to make all the necessary changes which is required. Like, for example, if I tell you your strength is you have accumulated good materialistic wealth, but your weakness is you have not grown spiritually. Now, if I say that to you, you might want to think that you will need to improve yourself as a person and you might want to grow spiritual. But the whole point is that's not the way it works. At least that's not the way the mind works, because the mind will always distract you from the truth. So, the truth in this example is you have accumulated materialistic wealth. Now, how do you use your materialistic wealth to grow spiritually? So, when you do that, when you learn to bridge the gap, you will understand that you have grown spiritually and your intelligence is contributing towards your spiritual realization. The next card is infamy. That's Krishna in the front and Arjuna following the orders of Lord Krishna. Let's read out the verse from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 34. Akirtim chapi bhutani katha yasyanti te vyayam sambhavitasya chakirtir maranad atirichayate. So the verse means, if you abandon your duty, all will speak endlessly of your shameful deed. And for one who has been honored, dishonor is worse than death. So this is a clear example of Arjuna feeling bad, sad, dejected, embarrassed to go ahead and fight the war, because he knew that he was striking to kill his own brothers who belonged to that same motherland. He was so much devastated when he learned that he should not be going for a war. But that's the call, and that's the call, the inner call to go ahead and fight for what is correct. So understand, the word fight creates a negative sensation in our minds, but when Krishna is motivating Arjuna to fight, there were very, very deeper reasons, my friend. So this message is clear that accumulation of knowledge is important for growth, and in the process of doing it we forget that all the knowledge that we are imbibing is through the force of God Almighty Himself. When we realize that we have accumulated the pearls of wisdom by accumulating all this knowledge, we want to understand that there is something beautiful that we have created. That materialistic wealth that we have created is not sufficient enough for our spiritual growth. So when we offer ourselves to to the spiritual side of ourselves, we will realize that the materialistic, the race for materialistic things in the world is one aspect of life. The other hidden aspect is creating the right form of intelligence to understand your own way of interpreting your reality. So what I mean is, If I know that I have a Mercedes car, I actually don't need to purchase another one, because that'll be another luxurious item that I'll purchase. So I might want to either think of working my way out to make sure that I do not have to buy another car, or I would just make sure that I will do something or the other which is related to not just materialistic pleasures. All right. So the war is an indication that there are times when we want to leave everything, every state of mind, every state of psychological suffering, and we want to move into our own world, a hidden world in which either we are meditating, or we have surrendered to the divine, or we are affecting ourselves in negative ways, or whatever trips that the mind makes. Understand this fact that it's very easy for us to surrender to a situation. Now, when we say the word surrender, there will be a time when there will be, oppression. So understand this simple fact that nobody wants to get dominated, because the person who's in power is the person who is holding his own strengths with himself. So your greatest strength is not to give up the war against not just evil, bad, the war against any situation which is trying to make your life difficult. That's the real war within us. So, Arjuna is your consciousness. Sorry, Krishna is your consciousness, which tells you that your body and mind, which is Arjuna, needs to go ahead and continue with this war. This will make sure that your spiritual growth is absolutely certain when you understand that materialistic growth is one side of you. All right. When you have realized that, look at this beautiful card at the bottom of the deck. You will get divine protection. That's the message. So, for you to know, this is the avatar of Lord Vishnu, that is Narsimha avatar. Let's read out the verse from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verse 22. Ananyas chintayanto mam ye jana paryupasate tesam nityabhiyuktanam yoga kshemam vahami aham. So this means that those who worship me with devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, for them I carry what they lack and pers- preserve what they have, both materially and spiritually. Look at this beautiful thing that just happened. This is the entire pathway for evolution of a soul. First, the body and mind developed to accumulate knowledge without understanding the value of thanking the God for it. In the process of doing it, you evolved and you've understood that there is something that needs to be done. We need to, you know, imbibe this idea that Arjuna imbibed, like pearls on a thread. And when you've understood that materialistic pleasure or materialistic growth is something which is important, but there is something more beyond it, which is your spiritual strength and spiritual knowledge. Once you start accumulating it, you will get to a point when you've broken down all the more. Mind you, this might happen as well. There are people who have been devastated when they realized what does the real spiritual meaning of life is. So understand the fact that it's not something which you have to worry about, because all your experiences that you're accumulating from your thoughts, your senses, are contributing towards your spiritual growth. If not the spiritual growth, at least it is moving towards increasing your materialistic growth for sure. Because as you can see the cards, this is what it means. Now, do not move away from the battle of life. That's very important. And when you stand your ground, you will always get that divine protection. This card talks about transcendental form of God. Understand the fact that when you close your eyes, the image of God that you see is your Ishta, Ishta Devta. So when you start to focus on that image when you close your eyes, is the God that you should ideally worship. It could be any God. Now, when I read out this verse which talks about my transcendental form, it's very indicative of the fact that irrespective of what will be your Ishta, That is a transcendental form that will help you move into that divine trance that you are creating in your life to evolve yourself spiritually. So it's it's magical to understand that when we are living, we are in the motions of evolving. We tend to forget that because we are moving after things, after a beautiful car, a beautiful house, a beautiful spouse, stuff like that. But in the process of doing it, there is accumulation of a lot of material wealth. But apart from that, there is something which needs to happen which is magical. And that magic is realizing your spiritual beauty. And when you do that, you might want to run away from the world and the war. And that's what you don't need to do. Stand your ground. And that's what is the message from Lord Krishna to Arjuna. Stand your ground. And when you are standing your ground, you will grow not just through material pleasures, you will grow spiritually. And when you grow spiritually, there are many a chance that you might fall into negative traps, negative energies, evil forces, people who are trying to affect you. Their energy might affect you, but all you have to do is close your eyes and seek that protection of that divine transcendental form of Almighty, the God within you. All right. So this, a little more light into this image. This is basically the Lord appearing in front of Bhakt Prahlad, one of the most eager disciples devoted to Lord Vishnu. So when he was being tortured by his father, who was the king, he the kid actually started to pray to him. And when he started to pray to him, the king laughed at the kid and said, I don't think so. It's possible that your God will appear right now from by breaking the pillars to which you are tied. And the kid closed his eyes, and with all his devotion, he started to invoke the presence of Narsimha or Vishnu within him. And guess what happened? The pillar was broken, and Lord appeared from within the pillar itself. So you can understand that devotion is a very sincere effort to connect with your own spirit, and it is a very truthful effort. Now, irrespective of what your mind is telling you, whether you're doing it right or wrong, what matters the most is your sincerity and your openness of the heart, which can help you connect with your divine. All right. So, this is the message for today. Hare Krishna.